Welcome to The Car Flip Show. My name's Justin. I was a part-time flipper turned full-time used car dealer. This show is all about teaching you how to buy and sell cars for profit. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. This is episode 14 of The Car Flip Show. I'm glad to have you along for the ride today. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 car flipping principles that I actually thought about this morning while I was playing basketball, as well as a product that you probably have in your house right now that can help get odors out of your vehicle. So we're going to start out with the things that I thought about this morning playing basketball. This morning in particular was a very good shooting day for me. I'm a big three-point shooter. I shoot a lot of threes, probably more threes than any other shot. So I don't know if it was because I was having a good shooting day or just because I was thinking about what I was going to talk about in today's podcast. But a few things popped into my head as I'm running up and down the court. I jotted a couple of them down while I was at the gym and then added a couple more as I got into my office today. But these are 5 things that could relate to basketball, or you probably could relate them to pretty much any sport. And I'm going to apply those things to flipping, although you probably, if you wanted to, could apply these things to life. So we're going to do our best to apply them to flipping. But the first thing that I thought about, I'm running up and down the court, the first thing that popped into my head was hustle. For me, hustle is a big part of my basketball game. So when I'm playing basketball, a lot of times there will be someone that's taller than me that's guarding me. There'll be someone that's faster than me. There'll be someone that maybe is a better basketball player. Now, I don't know if I could attribute this quote to someone or a person in particular, but I think it was a coach of mine that one time told me, he said, Justin, listen, he said, hard work beats talent every single day. Now, I don't know if I could take that and apply it across the board to every single aspect of life. But if you look at a lot of areas in your life or in flipping or in sports, for me in basketball, it definitely applies most of the time. So when that taller guy or that faster guy or that better player is guarding me, I know that I have that extra gear. Like I can run a little further. I can run a little faster. I can make a few more cuts to wear the guy down to when the back of his mind, I want him to think, how in the world is this guy still running? Like, how is he still moving? Like I'm about to die, but he's not. Like I try not to like put my hands down on my knees or like put my hands over my head to act like I'm tired, because in the back of their mind, I want them to think, how is this guy doing it? Now, stamina is something I try to run regularly. I just ran a couple miles the other day. I try to be consistent with that. I try to stay in the gym. So being in shape helps. Not that I am in amazing shape, but being in shape helps. But having the mental fortitude to hustle even when you're tired will definitely go a long way. Like for example, here at the car lot this week, it's been very, very hot. I think right now outside it's 98 degrees, but in North Carolina with our southern humidity, I think the real field temperature or what it feels like outside, it's listed at 107 degrees right now. So the last place I want to be is outside, but there are things that need to be done. And actually more yesterday than today. It was the same weather yesterday. I was outside. I was putting clear coat on a vehicle on the roof. I was detailing a couple cars. I was vacuuming. I had to wash a car. I had to actually apply some, it's like a plastic renew type liquid that goes on a Chevrolet Avalanche, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal until you realize that half the vehicle is plastic. So I had to apply this stuff to the whole vehicle, and it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which I probably should have planned better, but it's hot. My shirt is drenched in sweat. When I got home, my shoes, like I could feel like the sweat squishing, which is disgusting. But that was my hustle yesterday. That was like my hustle in the real world, was doing the things that maybe the dealer beside me doesn't want to get out until it cools down this week. I want to have those things done. So when someone comes in to look at my Avalanche, that's not an objection that they have. Why isn't the plastic? Why is it faded? I don't want that to be a problem that they have with my vehicle. So I'm willing to put in the hustle work to do that. A lot of dealers want to sub out a lot of stuff, which is great. And there are reasons that you should sub out things, but sometimes you got to get in there and get dirty and do the things yourself. If you're just starting out flipping, you're going to be doing a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of elbow grease. There's going to be a lot of hard work that you're going to put in up front. You're going to be doing all the detailing. You might even do a lot of the mechanical work. You might try to take care of a few body repairs yourself. A lot of that's going to be on your plate. And as you grow, like I have, and I have my own dealership, I have a mechanic that's been outside working from 9 o'clock this morning. It is currently, as I'm recording this, 4:15. He has been killing it today. It's, massive, like way hot. Like I hate it for him, but I'm glad he's doing it right now and not me, because I've gotten to a point that I can sub those things out. Paint, auto body. I'll be taking a car tomorrow to my paint guy. I don't have to get out and body fill the side of the car and paint this vehicle myself. First off, I'm not good at that. In particular, the Bondo and the body filler, I can do some small things, but that's something that I can sub out. So the further you go, the more that you can sub things out, that's great. But in the beginning, you're going to need to hustle. Actually, car dealers, I hear a lot of car dealers complaining about flippers, people that are buying and selling cars without their dealer's license. One thing that the dealers don't like is that they're having to work harder than they used to. They're having to figure out new ways to create revenue. Like, that's beside the point of, businesses like Carvana, CarMax offering different services that the car business is having to adapt. But used to, you could go to the auction, there was a lot more margin for the dealers at the auction because there wasn't as much competition, and they could buy the cars, bring them back, sit back, and you couldn't sit back and relax, but you could more than you have to now. So as a flipper, you can get in there and really disrupt the game if you're willing to put in the effort and the hustle up front. So that's number one. The second thing I thought about was a quick release. Now, think Steph Curry. If you're an NBA fan or if you are familiar with the NBA at all, the first unanimous MVP, back-to-back MVP, 3 NBA championships in the last 4 years. They just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you watch the NBA Finals, he had a decent Finals. I think he struggled a couple games, but one reason that Steph Curry is Steph Curry, the reason we know who he is, the reason he was the unanimous MVP selection a couple years ago, is because he has an incredibly quick release. Now, he also is very consistent. He's probably the best free throw shooter of all time, the best three-point shooter of all time. Not only can he shoot, he can finish at the rim. He's not dunking, but if he comes in on you, more times than not, he's going to finish. So you have all those things. Like, if he wasn't making the shots, the quick release doesn't matter. But he is not what he is if he has to catch the ball, set up, eye up the rim, have a form, bring it up, shoot it. When he grabs the ball, he could shoot from any place on the court. You don't know when he's going to release the ball. He's dribbling, he's through his legs, all of a sudden the shot's up and you don't know what happened. That is part of Steph Curry's success, is the fact that he has an incredibly quick release. Now, for me, applying that to basketball, I've done my best to emulate that. I enjoy watching Steph Curry play because even though I think he's like 6'3", I'm not quite 6 feet. It makes me, look at someone that's not like LeBron James. Like, I'm never going to be 6'8" and massively huge. I see Steph Curry, I think, well, if he can do it, I can do that same move. And so I can have a decent three-point shot. I've emulated a little bit of the quick release. I try to get the ball off as fast as I can. In flipping, you want to flip your cars as fast as possible. The longer you hold on to a car, the less potential profit that you stand to make, and not from a flip-by-flip basis. So you might still make $1,500 on that car, but if you flip it in 4 months, that's $350 a month. If you were able to flip that car in 2 weeks and only make $1,100, that's a lot more profit if you can turn that over every 2 weeks. So you can do the math. Not saying you will flip a car every 2 weeks. I've bought cars and sold them the same day. I've bought cars and had them for a year. You never know what issues you might run into along the way, but the faster you can turn over, the quicker release that you have from a buy to a sell standpoint, the more potential profit that you stand to make that year, because the faster you turn them over, the faster you can take that money and reinvest in something else and then be on to your next profit. So hustle, have a quick release. Number 3, which kind of is almost the opposite of quick release, is you have to be patient. If you think about any great athlete, think Steph Curry, think LeBron James, think Tom Brady. He's getting older, but the reason he is successful as he is because he is patient, right? He watches. He doesn't necessarily take the first option. He lets the play progress. Maybe it's the third option, but he is patient enough to wait for that route to fully develop. He finds the guy in the end zone. That's why he's Tom Brady, because he is patient. So you can't try to necessarily force things in basketball. If you try to force something, if you try to throw a pass, like this morning, I had a guy that was cutting. I probably shouldn't have thrown the pass, but I thought, no, I can get this through. There was 2 guys that were really close together. I tried to throw it in the middle. In basketball, they call that threading the needle. In high school, my coach always yelled, don't try to thread the needle, because rarely do those passes go through. Now, when they do, it's great and amazing. Everyone cheers, claps. But I tried to throw a pass. It didn't make it. I should have been more patient. I should have waited for him to curl around to the three-point line. I should have drove in, drawn the defense, and then passed it out to him. But because I wasn't patient, we missed out on an opportunity to score. In flipping, a missed opportunity to score goes a little bit like this. You have $2,500. That $2,500 is burning a hole in your pocket. You need to buy a car right now. You're waiting. You find a deal that, it's okay. It's not the best deal. You go look at it. You have second thoughts, but you buy it anyway. You invest your $2,500. The problem is you didn't allot for what that car was actually worth. You can only sell that car for $3,200, so you stand to make $700. But the next day, a car is posted that you could have bought for $2,500 and sold for $5,000. Because you weren't patient, you missed out on a scoring opportunity. Your money's tied up, and you can't buy that car that would have given you a bigger profit. So even if you make your $700, you have missed out on the potential profit of $2,500 because you weren't patient. Obviously, that's a hypothetical scenario, but I have been on the losing end of that deal before, and I've been on the winning end. It's a great feeling when you pass up on a deal and a great one happens to appear. And it seems like every time you buy a car, if you're scanning Craigslist, there's no deals. It's nothing. And all of a sudden you buy a car and then they're everywhere. So be patient. A new deal will always come about. It might take time for it to fully develop, but be patient. Don't buy something just for the sake of buying something. So patience is incredibly important. Number 4, the fourth thing that I thought about was the importance of watching others, basically paying attention to other people that are doing what you want to do right now. I met someone recently that wanted to start a coffee shop. And I said, okay, well, what do you know about the coffee business? And he said, well, I don't know. I just really like drinking coffee. And if I love coffee and I like making money, I should just open a coffee shop. And so, although that sounds like a decent idea, if you can imagine the expenses that go into opening and operating a coffee shop, I have no idea. I know there's machines and cappuccino and latte machines and all of this. We're looking at several $1,000s to get into the business, not to mention branding and actually having awareness where people will come and dine in your establishment. If I wanted to start a coffee shop, the first thing I would do is go work part-time at somewhere like Starbucks or maybe a local coffee shop. Number one, just to see if I actually enjoyed it. Like that would be the overarching reason I would do that. Do I actually enjoy working in a coffee shop? This is a place that I would want to be day in, day out. Because when you start a business, a lot of people think that they're going to leave their business so that they can be their own boss and have all the flexibility. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the toughest boss, the hardest boss you'll ever have will be yourself when you work for yourself, because you'll demand a lot more of yourself than any boss you've ever has. So that's the first reason I would go there, to see if I actually liked it. The second reason is you could actually learn a lot from a business like Starbucks. You wouldn't have to learn everything from the ground up. You wouldn't have to figure out, okay, what's the best way to mix this with that. Again, I don't know a lot about coffee. I'm not even the biggest fan of going to somewhere like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts because I like to mix it myself. I'm not good at giving instructions to the barista, which is what I think you call the person behind the counter. So it would be nice to know the trade secrets, to see how other people are doing it. What do they do when they have this problem? Oh, wow, I had no idea that tool existed. Sites like thecarflip.com, that's my website. That's where this podcast is, being hosted from. Or Facebook groups like the Carflip Facebook group. There's over 3,000 people in there, some of which are experts, some of which make their income full-time from car flipping, some of which do it on the side. Some people, maybe like yourself, have never done it. You're on the fence. You think it will be awesome, but you just haven't quite taken the plunge and bought your first car. There are people in that group that are doing exactly what you want to do. They're talking about it, and they're actually willing to answer questions. What better place to go and watch people do what you want to do than a place like the Carflip Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that, if you subscribe to the email list, if you go to thecarflip.com, if you click the button and put your email address in there, I'll send you, and it'll come automatically. You'll get a link to that group. It's absolutely free, but we'd love to have you as a part of that. But watching people can be very beneficial because you can learn from their mistakes. You can also learn from their successes as opposed to having to learn from your mistakes. So great way to learn and garner information is to watch others. In basketball, I do that by watching someone like Steph Curry, or when LeBron James makes a move. Okay, I see why he did that. Did you see how he looked to the left and then went to the right? Things like that can be garnered from basketball. The same way in car flipping or whatever area maybe you want to start that coffee shop. Go work at Starbucks to learn the business as opposed to learning and suffering from your own mistakes. So those are 4. The 5th is adapt as needed. A lot of people, before they get started flipping, they think They have to know absolutely everything. I've got to know how to change brakes. I've got to know how to change the oil. I've got to know how to operate an OBD2 scanner. I've got to know how to fill in the blank, thing after thing after thing. You don't necessarily have to understand all of those things. If you think about a lot of basketball players early in their career, someone like a Ben Simmons, if you're not familiar with basketball, great player. I think he played at LSU. He got injured, sat out his rookie year, which technically this year was his rookie year because he missed that, but had a really great year. I think he even won Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, or was at least one of the final 2 candidates for that. But he doesn't have a jump shot, right? He can drive, he can dribble, he can pass. He's a great ball player, better ball player than I can even imagine being, but he doesn't have a jump shot. Like, he can't shoot, which is a problem in basketball, especially as you get older, because right now he's in his prime. He's fast, he can jump, he can move, he can get around you. If he wants to pass you, he's going to pass you. But when you get later in your career, like a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, you're starting to see this a little bit with LeBron James, but not really, because he's kind of a freak of nature and he's still in his prime, even though he shouldn't be. But someone like Michael Jordan, he developed a jump shot. Kobe Bryant developed a jump shot. Later in their career, as they couldn't round the corner on you on the floor, or maybe they couldn't dunk over you like they used to be able to, they began to develop a jump shot. And I've seen this in my basketball game this morning as I took 3 after 3, jump shot after jump shot. I thought about when I was 16, 17, 18, I rarely pulled up from 3, off the dribble because I wasn't that confident in my jump shot. But I didn't need it as much because I was fast. I could get around people. I could get to the basket. I could get fouled. That was important. But now that I can't necessarily do that against an 18-year-old kid or against a 22-year-old, I'm having to rely a little bit more on my jump shot, which served me well this morning. But you have to be willing to adapt and learn as needed. So the way that you do that is by learning. So when you start flipping cars, when you have an AC compressor that goes out, you have to be willing to learn either how to install an AC compressor, or you have to be willing to understand the process of finding a mechanic that you can trust, that you can then have repair that AC compressor for you. On most cars, AC compressors aren't that complicated, but you don't have to know how to do that before you get started. So you don't have to know everything before you take the plunge and buy your first car. I would recommend at least having an understanding of the business model, of how things work in the flipping process. I actually have a course at thecarflipcourse.com that can take you through everything that I know from a flipping standpoint and can put it in a video-based format where you can actually learn from me my exact process. There's live monthly calls. There's a private Facebook group for those people, and that's all there so that those people can learn as they go. They can learn my process, but when they have questions, they can get with me directly. So maybe you would work better with a course, or maybe you would work better just from the School of Hard Knocks. Maybe you can glean what you need to know from a podcast like this. Like I put a lot of good free stuff out there that you can have and use like today. But if a course, something more structured would be good for you, those things are available. But you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to adapt. I actually had 2 quotes that I read recently. I think I put them on a piece of paper. I'm actually going to read those for you right now. The first one was from Howard Gardner, and he says, "If you think education is expensive, try estimating the cost of ignorance." Now, what he's saying is if you're not willing to learn, that's one thing. But a lot of people think, oh, well, education is so expensive. Maybe they're talking about college. Maybe it's a course they saw somewhere on the internet. Maybe it's a book. A $20 book is so expensive. A $20 book is usually someone's life work. It's everything they know. They put it all in that book, and they're only charging $20. Like, the best investment you'll ever make is buying a book from a reputable person, obviously. But someone's knowledge is valuable. And he says, if you think education is expensive, just wait until you find out how much it's going to cost you to not know the things that you could have learned. There's a huge expense in being ignorant, of course. The second quote that I wrote, and this is more of a humorous quote, this is from Mark Twain. He says, "A man who carries a cat by the tail learns something he can only learn that way." If you pick a cat up by the tail, you can imagine how fun that would be and how scratched up your hand will become. But try explaining that to someone who doesn't know what a cat is, right? They can only learn that by grabbing the cat by the tail and letting the cat scratch them. Sometimes there are things in car flipping that the only way you're going to learn is by actually getting in there, getting your hands dirty, messing up, and saying, okay, this is going to cost me, but this is just the cost of learning. I know not to do that again. I know how to approach the situation next time. Things can definitely offset the odds of you having problems like that, like the car flip course. But sometimes you just have to learn on your own. You just have to go in, do it, mess up, still make a profit, and then do better next time. So those are 5 things that I thought about this morning, very early, like 5 in the morning, as I'm running up and down the court. And I hope that they'll be helpful for you on your flipping journey. Before we get off of here today, I want to show you something that you probably are very familiar with. You probably have this in your house right now. It is Febreze fabric spray. I actually have some sitting right below me. And this is the 800 milliliter bottle, which equates out to 27 fluid ounces. The bottle I'm actually holding right now is a little bit dirty because I usually don't buy a brand new actual spray bottle every single time. I go through enough of it that I buy the refill, which is, I don't think it's quite a gallon, but we'll put a link in the show notes to a Febreze spray bottle and the refills. Amazon's pretty handy because you can have it in 2 days with Amazon Prime. But very handy to have. A few quick notes on it. It's not going to get out every single smell that you have, but it's going to be probably the cheapest option to remove a lot of smells. So, for example, I used it on a car recently. The problem with this car was that the carpet, although it looked clean on the top, we had vacuumed it out. We scrubbed it, put a little shampoo in it. So we sprayed Febreze over it. It smelled pretty good for a few minutes. As we came back, the smell had come right back. And as we pulled the carpet up, somebody's kid most likely had spilt some milk or something like chocolate milk. Something, it was nasty looking, but it was under the carpet. So it actually had soaked into the carpet. It had spread into the insulation. This, Febreze, although it can mask that, it's not going to completely take out something like that. So you're going to have to actually fix that problem. In this vehicle, the carpet was so nasty, we actually had to pull the entire interior. We sprayed it down with Purple Power, and we pressure washed it. It was probably the dirtiest carpet that I've had in a vehicle in maybe ever, but Febreze isn't going to fix that. But Febreze could fix if someone had a dog in their vehicle a couple times. It might help that. If someone has smoked in a car, that's a difficult smell to get out. The cheapest way would just be to leave the windows open for as long as you can without letting it get rained in. But using Febreze to spray over all the fabric, the headliner, if someone smoked, fumes go up. So spray the headliner very well, sun visors, that kind of thing. But it will help. Actually, in the development of Febreze, they were having trouble marketing it. They actually had some people that came in and they let them use it. So there was this one person in particular, it was a park ranger, and she had been trying to find someone to date for the longest time. And this is probably not relating to the show whatsoever, but I thought it was interesting. Every person that she dated never wanted to come back or never have a second date. And her friends eventually told her, they said, "Don't you smell that?" And she said, "Smell what?" She worked in, I forget what park. There were a lot of skunks in the area. All of her clothes, even her house and her car smelled like skunk. So if you can imagine that first date, she smells like skunk. You're probably not calling her back for the second date. They let her use Febreze. Like, she loved it so much, she didn't want to give it back. She was like, "You guys have to, figure out how to make this product work because it's changed my life." She had someone that eventually she was able to date long term because of this Febreze product. I don't know if it'll be that life-changing for you, but it is very helpful. It's very cost-effective. A bottle of Febreze is not expensive. You can buy it anywhere. Walmart, fill in the blank, retailer, Amazon's probably the easiest. Just click it and it's going to be to you. But Febreze, great product, can save you some time and hassle and can help someone when they stick their head in your car for the first time. Although the first thing they're going to do is look around. They're either going to be turned off, it's going to be a neutral thing, but someone, if they stick their head in your car and it smells horrible, that's an immediate turn off. A lot of folks will not buy a car if they don't like the way it smells. So great way to alleviate some of those issues. So those are 5 things that I hope you can help apply to car flipping. Maybe a few life principles there. You don't want to get all heady, but there are some things there that we definitely can apply to our lives. I'll list those for you again. Hustle hard. Be sure that you're releasing the vehicles you have quickly. Do the Steph Curry, get it out of there, but still make your money. Be patient, right? In buying and selling, you have to be patient. You have to balance that with the quick release. Watch others. Pay attention to others. Be a part of our free Facebook group. Put your email address in at thecarflip.com. If you have not already, I'll send you the link to that. And then adapt as needed. Be willing to learn. If you're not going to be willing to learn, you're not going to have the success that you so desire. So that's all for episode number 14. I look forward to seeing you in episode 15. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the show. I would love for these things to come directly to you. It also helps our numbers, helps other people see us. If you have the time, a rating and review would be amazing. Otherwise, I will see you in episode number 15.